All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to Black Rifle TV, a new episode. I'm doing an interview with 2A-N-LA, Alan Wright. Introduce yourself. How's it going,
Hi,
Alan?
I'm good. Good. How about you, Jason?
Pretty good, pretty good. So I guess we're going to talk about, about your channel, what got you into YouTube, what got you into firearms. Since I actually saw you a smaller channel, I thought it'd be interesting to talk with you. I mean, I try to get interviews with the big channels; they don't talk to me, so you know how it is. so that works. I mean, especially someone who's getting into firearms, someone who's in LA and California. I think it's just an interesting combination. So
Yeah.
I guess let's go and get started. So I guess go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Alan Wright. I am the host and producer of the YouTube channel 2A-N-LA. The channel is dedicated to kind of all things that go bang. And we kind of cover topics from firearm reviews and accessories to firearm safety to kind of all things that kind of evolve around our Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, especially in California, I'm sure there's a lot to show. This is what the channel looks like. So looks like he's got about 101.38 thousand subscribers. Looks like he got a lot of interesting videos.
Yeah, so we've done over 75 videos. The channel's been around now for about 8 months, and in 8 months' time, we've done over 75 videos. We're fastly approaching 2,000 subscribers. We've had over 10,000 watch hours on the channel and well over 250,000 views. So the channel's growing nicely. I would like to say it's growing better than I anticipated, but when I started, I really didn't have any anticipation. I didn't know if anybody would watch besides me when I set out, right? And
no, that's good. It's good that you started. That's the main thing.
Yeah, so I'm pleased with the direction that the channel is going.
It looks good. Looks good. I'm very. You have a lot of subscribers. That's very good. I mean, main things you have an audience, you have people watching. That's the main thing. So that's. So I guess. Well, next question. I guess what interested you in getting your first firearm, and what got you interested in your Second Amendment, especially being in California. It's obviously taboo subject over there. So I guess
it's a great question. Ignorance is kind of bliss. I bought my first firearm between my first and my second firearm. Almost 30 years passed. So I bought my first firearm, and both kind of evolved around the same or similar issues with upheaval. So I bought my first firearm back in like 1992. This was when the Rodney King beating happened and there was all that civil unrest. I was in college at the time going to UCLA. And I remember I had 3 roommates. And I remember going out to my car one morning during all of this nonsense. And my car was black, but it looked gray from all the soot, from all the fires that were going on around LA County. And I was like, you know what? I better take some additional measures to kind of protect myself, right? And so I went out and I went to a local military supply store. I knew very little about guns at the time. And I bought a Davis Industries Chrome 380. Now, I probably couldn't have picked a worse gun to buy. I bought it because it was what I could afford. I bought it because I thought it would look cool because it was chrome. Knowing what I know now, I would have never bought that gun, but I still have it to this day. And then I bought my second gun, fast forward 2020, right when the pandemic was breaking out and people were standing in line for 3 hours for toilet paper. And I was like, man, you know what? Same thing. I said, I don't think that little Davis Industries is going to do it this go round. And so what I did was this time I did my homework. I really immersed myself on YouTube, and I found all these fantastic gun tours who were giving me information on what guns to buy, the difference between the various types of guns, all the hoops and this was the part that was really shocking, all the hoops you have to go through to own a gun, particularly in California. It had changed a lot, from a long time ago when I bought my first gun. So they kind of cleared the fog for me on that. And in that, I kind of got fascinated with YouTube, in particular, gun tube channels. And the seeds were kind of planted for me to start my own channel at some point.
No, that's really interesting story. I guess let's go back to, process of buying a firearm. I guess let's go get into that. How, what was the process for you when you, the background check? Like, you got the ammo background checks, the handgun certification, background checks. Could you go into that? I guess explain to me, how much different was that now from when you did it in the 90s?
When I did it back in the 90s, I think there was a background check, but it was really quick, and I think it was very similar to the kind of background check that most people experience in what I call free states, where you do have to go through a background check. It's a couple of days, if not the same day, and you can come back and pick up your gun. That's how it was in 92. Now, fast forward to 2020, wow. It was amazing. So first of all, I had to pass this test, which is kind of like a general firearm safety test, but you still have to pass it. You have to go to a licensed dealer to take the test. You take the test, you pass it. That's great. Okay. That's the first step. Now you have to pass you choose your firearm, and then you have to pass a background check. And there's a 10-day cooling off period. And so you have to wait 10 days between the time that you actually purchase and pay for the gun before you can actually come and pick the gun up. There's also a background check for ammunition, but that is something that's kind of instantaneous, and is, it is not as strict. It essentially, if you can pass the background check to buy the gun, you can pass the background check to get the ammo. And so, yeah, I was unfamiliar with all of that process when I first got started, but it's old hat now. Once you kind of get used to it, it's funny because I travel quite a bit to neighboring states. I go to Nevada a lot. I go to Arizona a lot. And so I have friends out there who shoot, and I marvel at the way they go into gun stores and they can just buy a gun or they can just pick up ammo, and they're like, "Hey, let's go." I'm like, wow. Yeah, it's a distinct difference.
Well, I mean, it's obvious that what the intentions of all these laws are. It's similar to I don't like, claiming like Jim Crow and all that stuff, but it's very similar to where they're intentionally doing all this stuff because they do not want you to have that. It's obvious that's, we don't want you to have these guns. We don't want you to buy them. We want to make it as tedious as possible and make it to where, the average person is going to say, you know what, forget it. I'll just go get something out the black market, and so it's intentional. It has nothing to do about so-called safety. I mean, it's still dangerous. I mean, even if LA didn't have all these laws, it'd still be the exact same amount of crime. And it's just, their bright idea is, more gun control, but yet let's, slash the police. Let's, open up the prisons. Let's everybody out. It's just, yeah, it's bizarre. It's very strange.
I say, if you believe in the good in people, then you think that these politicians are likely very well-intentioned, but very uneducated and uninformed about firearms and firearm safety and usage. And if you're more jaded, you think that they are in it to, just eliminate the Second Amendment at the end of the day. And so doesn't matter to me which side of the spectrum it's on. At the end of the day, it's affecting us all. And I'm more concerned about
what's going to spread,
the motivations behind it, right?
Yeah, this stuff spreads. It doesn't just stay in California. So I think that's what people need to understand. It's, you're already seeing it and, it's up here where I'm at. It's in, Nevada, it's in New York. It's spreading. So, I mean, that's really the main concern. I think that's why everyone has to pay attention and what's going on in all these other states, because, what they're able to get away with in California, you're going to see it, Pelosi and, big dummy Biden pushing it. So it's just, yeah. Yeah, it really is something else. So I guess let's go back to talking about yourself. I guess so. You're originally from LA, right?
Yeah, born, raised, educated in LA. Been here my whole life. Couldn't imagine, with the exception of the gun part, with the exception of gun rights, I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Like I said, we're what, the end of October, going into November. It's 80 degrees and sunny outside. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, born and raised here.
Oh, very good, very good. So that's good. So you're originally from there. You're not You're not one of these carpetbaggers from New York and all these other states. So that's good. That's very interesting. Very interesting. So I guess let's get into the recent politics of what happened in California. I know Larry Elder and the recall. Obviously, it failed. I guess. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't. I wasn't. So I did a video a while back called "Gun Control." Is this the Democrats' big lie? And really, so in the last presidential election, liberal media and Democrats were very outspoken about, Trump and Trump supporters kind of ringing the bell saying that the election was rigged when in fact it was not, and using that as kind of a calling cry for people to ultimately ended up in the march on the state on the nation's capital, right? And so
YouTube overlords, it was fortified. It was the most secure, greatest election ever. So don't don't get offended here, please.
Right. So I took that upon myself to kind of say, well, look, if you're a Democrat and you're going to point the finger at Republicans and say, hey, you guys are ratcheting people up, getting people fired up, and it's not, the case, then you have to be responsible for the things that you do as well. And people rolling out every time there's some kind of gun accident or gun incident and over publicizing it to make it seem as if there's some national, and these are Joe Biden's words, that gun violence in this country is a national epidemic, as if it's COVID-like or something. We have 30,000 gun deaths in this country every year, and I'm not slighting the importance of any life at all, but we've lost hundreds of thousands of lives to COVID. We have 30 to 40,000 gun deaths every year in this country. Of that 30 to 40,000, over 60% are suicide. So having stricter gun laws is not going to eliminate that, right? We have this whole assault weapons ban and assault weapons and this and that, when AR-15s or quote unquote assault weapons make up only 1% of the gun deaths in our country every year. If you really wanted to do something about gun deaths, you would be trying to eliminate pistols, because almost all gun deaths are the result of pistols, right? And so they don't touch that because they know they can't. And so they are, they're playing games, I feel like, to make it seem as if they're doing something when they're not doing anything. Criminals don't go down to the local FFL to buy their guns. That's not how this works, right? So you making laws more challenging is only preventing law-abiding citizens from A, being able to even discern what the law is, and B, being able to follow it. And you're putting criminals in a better situation than they were before all these gun laws that they're trying to enact. At least that's how I see it.
Oh yeah, I think that it's purposely convoluted. It's purposely overlapping each other, purposely very difficult, because they want you to catch you in these gray areas. I think that's what it is. And to go back to, you were talking about COVID. I think the problem with COVID was that we gave them so much power we haven't pushed back how they're able to shut down churches, shut down gun stores. You can't go visit grandma. They're going to use this power against all our other rights. And it's just, that's kind of the concerning part. And, get back to, the recall and Gavin Newsom, Mr. I got to go eat out at French Laundry, yet you can't go to church.
Right,
I mean, it's just
yeah.
the most bizarre thing.
Yeah, that was not a good look for him.
He won in a landslide. I mean, what is it? The exact same percentage for and against the recall as it was in 2018. I mean, it's just like, what the? I mean, just bizarre. I'm not alluding to anything was fixed. I'm not saying anything. It's just, I've never seen that before. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
He won in a landslide in the original election. There was a lot of noise being made about his recall, but I don't think that was from mainstream kind of Californians. The state is historically very blue, right? And so it's not surprising to me that he won the recall election either. I'm personally, I said this many times, I'm very probably conservative when it comes to Second Amendment rights and things like that. I'm more
just realistic.
Yeah. I'm more liberal in certain other areas. If you ask me if I'm conservative or liberal, I'll tell you it depends on what topic. I think anybody who thinks one way about everything is not really informed. There are too many very smart Democrats. There are too many very smart Republicans for one side to be 100% right all the time and the other side to be 100% wrong all the time, right? So there's got to be some balance. And I think I've said this on my channel many times. I'm not down with politicians left or right, period. I'm not down with media left or right, period. Everybody has their own agenda. And so one of the things that I wanted to do with my channel is to go directly to the people, to bypass the politicians, to bypass the media and get directly to the people. Because what I have found is I know this is kind of cliche to say that, there's a lot more that we have in common than what divides us. But running a YouTube channel has really made that evident to me. When I talk to people who are in other states, deep red South states, to New York, blue states, and wherever, we have way more in common than I think that divides us. And I think that politicians don't gain anything from trying to find out where we meet at. They run on division, right? And media is the same thing. Like, it doesn't do Fox News or MSNBC any good if they aren't up there hollering and screaming about what each other is doing, right? Because that's what sells. And so,
absolutely. Right. I can tell you that Fox does that a lot, and I think the point you're making is very important. We're all human. We're not going to all have the same, we're not all cookie cutouts. We're all going to have the same opinion. Right. And it's just, yeah. I mean, I can 100% agree if especially on Fox. I mean, I guess I would identify as a conservative, but it gets very annoying going on Fox and just seeing all these, just these headlines, these catchy, one word, just like, oh my gosh. And they all do it. CNN does it, MSNBC does it. It's absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you on that.
I think what's ruined, not ruined, that's probably an over-exaggeration, but one of the things that has certainly impacted the fabric of our culture. I'm older than you, so I can remember when, all you had was the evening news, right? You come home at 6 o'clock, you watch the evening news, and that was it. It was on Channel 2 or Channel 7 or CBS, ABC, or whatever, right? The advent of cable television and the 24-hour news cycle and the need to fill this space with something at all times has led to the
oversaturation
of everything. And it's impossible to tell what is serious from what is nothing, because they all play it up to be the end of the world. So
absolutely. Yeah. I think another point I wanted to add was just that Twitter. I mean, that is an outrage machine. I mean, I don't have a Twitter. I mean, I had one a couple years ago. I got rid of that. I mean, it was just, oh my gosh, it was just such a nuisance, such an outrage machine. I go on there every now and then, and you see these on the side of it, all these, very clickbait, very
Right.
one-sided. It's an outrage machine. It's Jack Dorsey's outrage machine. That's what it is. And it's just, I want to ignore Twitter, but it's like, that's what the politicians are listening to. That's what these, millennials are listening to. It's what the cable news people are listening to. And it's just, that's why you have all these really weird political talk. I'm not going to go into it, but it's just, you have these really weird, why are we talking about this? Well, it's because Twitter's talking about it. That's why. It's, the average person on the street doesn't care. It's just, Twitter's pushing it. So, and it's just, yeah, it's a lot of money in all that stuff. I mean, it's, oh yeah. So I guess let's go into, is any other thoughts on that, or do you want to move on to another topic?
No, we can go on to the next topic. I don't have anything else. I would say my channel, if you watch it, obviously I have political opinions, but I don't consider myself a political channel. We really, like I said, try to focus on guns, certainly advocating our Second Amendment rights. So that's a portion of what we do. But we're really all about fun. At the end of the day, I like to have a good time. I like to try to make guns entertaining. I try to come from a perspective of somebody who really immersed himself in gun culture. Like so many people, like we've had millions and millions and millions of new gun owners since the start of COVID. Over 50% of them have been African American. And so that was one of the other reasons why I was like, hey, this is great. We've got a lot of people who are brand new to guns, who don't know anything of guns, who are probably going to YouTube like I did, right, to try to find out about guns. And so I thought I had a voice that people would find interesting, and I thought I could deliver content in a way that hopefully was educational and entertaining. So, for me, it's all about having a good time.
Very good. That's the same way with me. I find that you do everyone else is doing politics. That's there's a lot of that, but I think when you just stick to guns and to gun politics, you get a very large audience. I get most of my views is I can do political stuff, but I'm not gonna get as many views. But when I stick to just gun politics, gun news, I get more viewers. So it's sort of it's a niche I think people are looking for. I think people get enough of news every day. They just want to see limited what to a certain limited within a certain topic, if that makes any sense.
No,
so.
I think there's a lot of truth to that. I have found that when I have gone heavier on the political side as it pertains to Second Amendment, those are the videos that even when I feel like, I really did a good job, I was insightful, I gave people a lot of good information, those are the episodes that people don't watch as much. When I pull out CZ Shadow 2, all of a sudden everybody's flocking right to the channel. So so I try to keep it there more times than not.
Absolutely. So I guess we're gonna go into the ARs, the big scary black rifles. We'll go to that next. So I guess let's go into what made you choose your first AR. As I assume you built yours, or did you buy yours?
So I told you I bought my first gun 30 years ago. My next gun I bought right at the start of the pandemic. Since then, I've been busy. I have acquired a lot of firearms in a short amount of time. I have the bug full blown, right? And so the first two ARs I bought fully assembled, and one was a fixed mag configuration, and the other was a featureless configuration, because I felt like I should have both to have a better sense of, even if ultimately I only kept one, I felt I should have both so I know which one I liked better and what was the better configuration for me.
So I guess could you explain, let's go into that. Let's explain, I guess, what is the difference between fixed and featureless, and what are the laws pertaining to rifles in California? I think I pretty much understand it, but let's I think there's people here who don't understand what is featureless, what is fixed. So I guess could you go into that?
Sure. So in California, a rifle is defined as anything that's beyond 16 inches in barrel length, right? And so you can run a rifle one of two ways in California. The first way, if it's a fixed magazine, and essentially a fixed magazine rifle is one where to release the magazine, the action of the rifle has to be open. And so there's a lot of different companies out there that produce products that allow you to do it. But essentially you press a button, the action opens and the magazine drops out. Now, some have it so that the action just barely opens, a little crease, right? And some it fully opens. And so it just depends, but that's the essence of it. A featureless rifle is one where if you don't want to go now on the fixed magazine, that's the only component that changes from a normal rifle, is that it has this button. You hit the button, the action opens, the magazine drops out. Other than that, everything else about the rifle is normal. If you don't want to run a fixed mag, you can run what's called a featureless rifle. And a featureless rifle is essentially one that is absent all of the evil features that the government has decided are evil, which when I tell you, the people out there, they're going to be like, what's so evil about that, right? Okay, so a featureless rifle cannot have a vertical foregrip. You can have a hand stop, you can have a slanted one, but it can't be vertical. A featureless rifle cannot have a butt stock that moves. It has to be fixed. And last but not least, a featureless rifle cannot have a pistol grip. You can't wrap your hand fully around the grip. And so one might ask, well, okay, then what do you do? Well, for me, I'm not a vertical foregrip guy anyway. I prefer a hand stop. And so for me, that part doesn't make any difference whatsoever. My butt stop, typically I'm not somebody who is going to be moving his butt stock a lot anyway. I put it where I want it, where it's comfortable. They lock it in place and it runs like anything else. And then the only real part that I don't love is the grip, that you can't necessarily have a grip that you can, it has to be some kind of thin grip that you can't fully wrap your hand around. But they've adjusted for that by creating thin grips that have little ledges for your thumbs to rest. And so, I mean, once you train with one for about 20 minutes, you don't notice the difference anymore anyway. And so those are the differences, the primary differences. Oh, and you have it here too. You can have a muzzle device or a muzzle brake, but you can't have a flash hider or suppressor on a featureless. You can't have a true suppressor in the state of California, period. They are outlawed.
Okay, well, I was gonna go ahead and run through the different pictures I actually found.
Sure.
So that's this is the diagram. So I was gonna show you what the let's see if I can pull this up. Sort of doing this on the fly here. So this is what you were talking about, the one where the thumb shelf.
Yeah. And so once you wrap your hand underneath the grip, and then you have the little thumb shelf there, it pretty much gives you all of the contact balance you need to be able to operate the firearm very efficiently. Like I said, it's a matter of training. Even the fixed mag situation where you have to pop it up. Believe me, I can take you around to some guys out here that can run a fixed magazine better than 90% of the population can run a regular rifle. You just get very skilled with it. Now, this is the one you're showing now is where the action fully opens. Those require more training, but we've got ones where the action just, pops open a centimeter, mag drops, and you click it right back down and you keep rolling.
And I was going to show you, let's see, let's get this one too. This is the, where it has both the fixed above it and then the featureless. So yeah, that's the Thordston grip below it.
Yeah.
So I guess let me ask you this. So out of all the grips, like the thumb shelf grips, which one do you prefer? Do you like the Thordston one or the one with the thumb shelf?
I like the one with the thumb shelf. and you got to be careful too. Like, I don't want anything. So there's a lot of grips out there. One day I'll do an episode. I've done an episode on featureless versus fixed mag. One day I'll do an episode on all the different California related grips that they have. Sparrow Dynamics makes a really, really nice one. And I use that on my AR build that I did on the channel this year. But you just got to be careful that you are choosing, because everybody wants to create the better grip, right? And the closer they get to the compliant, better grip, the closer they get to going to jail. You know?
Oh yeah.
So there's a lot of grips out there that are quote unquote California compliant that I won't put on one of my rifles because so that Sparrow Dynamics grip, I use that on my most recent. I did an AR-15 build, Chamber 50 Beowulf, and I did a 3-part series on that build. And Sparrow Dynamics was a partner, so they donated that grip along with a couple of other components. And so I really like that grip. That's a comfortable grip. It's a little bit tight between like the buffer tube and the grip, depending on your setup. But yeah, you get a pretty good purchase on that grip.
Okay, that makes. I especially like the part where I guess could you explain some more about the when you were talking about the closer they get to compliant, the more you go to jail. Could you explain that a little bit more? What you mean by that?
Yeah, so everybody wants to make the best compliant grip possible, but there are some rules and regulations surrounding what a California compliant grip is, and essentially. I would have reviewed it, but essentially you can't wrap your hand all the way around it like you could a pistol grip. The height of your thumb can't be above a certain portion on the gun, right? And so a lot of manufacturers toe that line and come very close. So certain grips I just won't put on my rifle. It's not worth it to me. I'll say this: I've been to most of the large gun ranges in Southern California. I've come across many law enforcement officers, and I've never had anybody. I mean, I run my guns all legal and according to spec, but I've never seen somebody get confronted about a grip or anything like that. You just don't want to be the one. You don't want to be the test case.
Well, you have to be careful, especially like you get involved in a shooting, and they're unfortunately like what we're seeing with Rittenhouse, they're looking for like the finest little detail, and if they can catch you there, they're gonna dump that. And it's a pretty serious. I mean, could you explain like what are the charges for assault weapon charges? What is that? That's like what a C felony, or it's very serious. What is it?
Yeah, no, it's a felony, and you're gonna go to jail. There's no doubt about that. No ifs about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, you lose your Second Amendment rights, which is which is the point. It's just just something else.
And so I that's the thing about Rittenhouse. Look, do I think that he
should have been there
himself properly? Yes, I do. I think in each instance, based on the video that I saw, he was justified in protecting himself with the use of deadly force. My point is he had a gun he shouldn't have been able to have in the state. He went there if you want to be law enforcement, then join the police department, join the armed forces. That's not what you should be doing. So he went out there looking for problems, and he found it. And now,
I mean, I agree.
Best case scenario, he gets off. He's going to get convicted on something, right? Even if it's just possession. So now he's never going to be able to own a firearm for the rest of his life legally. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? And so I think people just have to be smart. That's like the other. I was watching John Lavelle the other day on Warrior Poet Society, and he was talking about that Florida couple who were outside with the AR-15 and the wife had the handgun because of protest, supposedly warding off protesters. And you know, from a tactical perspective, if those people are what you think they are, then you should not be out in plain sight, right? You should be in a more tactical position to protect and defend your home, right? So I just think people need to think a little bit more before they act.
Well, I think that's a great point you're making. And I think that's, you know, look, I'm not going against him. You're not going against Rittenhouse. We support him 100%. But I think that's just a point. I don't think people are making that. He shouldn't have been there. That was just like, what was he thinking? I mean,
Right.
It's just they don't appreciate him being there. He's, like you said, he's probably ruined. I mean,
Right.
People are saying that he'll get off. He'll be fine. Are you sure about that? Especially, you know, that liberal Kenosha. I mean, they're gonna, you know, these grand juries, man, they want to convict, man, they're gonna do it. I mean, especially the amount of pressure that's on. You got Bloomberg money in there, Soros money in there. They're gonna get them on something, and it's just,
yeah. I think they're gonna, like I said, I don't look. I'm not an attorney, and I don't play one on YouTube, but I'd say that I think that they're going to get him, if nothing else, on possessing the rifle when he wasn't legally able to, and that will be enough for him never to be able to own a firearm again, let alone if he gets convicted over something a lot more serious.
I'm just worried that this is going to go the way of the Chauvin trial, where you're going to have the agitators and the, you know, the money and everything, you know, compounding everything, and it's just, I don't know. I mean, it starts next week, so we'll see how that goes. So it's just, man, best of luck to him. It's just, wow. So I guess, to continue on with the AR, what would you recommend for, like, what parts would you recommend for, like, let's say this is like your dream build and you have all the money in the world you can spend. What would be like your ideal featureless rec? What kind of parts would you recommend to put on, especially maybe a beginners too? We can talk about that too.
Yeah. So if I was, so it's funny you mentioned this. So I think you need to have me back again, and I'll have a better answer for this question. So we did a build on our channel. We did an AR-15 build, chambered in 50 Beowulf. And in that build, it wasn't really a build as much as it was an assembly. I got a Palmetto State Armory lower. I got a Bear Creek Arsenal upper. And, you know, I put them together. And then obviously we got, you know, other people to help accessorize the outline of the gun, right? Like I said, we got Sparrow Dynamics involved. We got Dagger Defense involved. We got Strike Industries involved. And then we gave some of the little ancillary parts. But what we're doing now is, I just did a episode on what's the best weapon for home defense. And we kind of looked at handguns. We looked at shotguns. We looked at ARs. We looked at AKs. We looked at PCCs. And the conclusion that I came to was that really a pistol caliber carbine in a AR pistol format was probably the best weapon for home defense, particularly if you're in an urban environment where you have to be concerned about neighbors and if you share walls and things like that. And so one of the things that I'm doing now is I am creating my dream home defense AR-9. And so I'm just starting that. So what you're talking about, like what parts would I use? I'm going through that now. I'm weeding out. I'm going through all of them. So you guys have to check that out on the channel. You'll have to have me come back when we finish the build. We're probably going to start that in the middle of November. Maybe the first episode will be in the middle of November. So have me back and I can get into some more detail about like what are the best barrels, what's the best buffer tube, what's the best bolt carrier group. You have me back and we'll go through all that then.
No, absolutely. To be continued. So I guess interesting thing you brought up about pistols in California. I guess are you talking about like in other states or like in California? How would you, like an AR pistol? I know those are very like
Ah,
They're like dinosaurs. They're very like unicorns rather. They're very rare. Like how would you? I guess how would you obtain something like that for
okay.
like home
So
defense?
great question. So for people who are not in California and are like, what the hell are these guys talking about? California has what's called a California handgun roster. And if a pistol isn't specifically named on the roster, it is illegal to possess it absent one thing. Okay. And so and the roster doesn't get updated really. The hot stuff on the California gun roster is a Gen 3 Glock 17. That's that's like, you're really doing it good, if you're picking guns off the California handgun roster. So
If I'm not
everything
mistaken, it's stuck in 2013, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So the only other way to possess a handgun / pistol that is not on the California handgun roster is if you buy it private party. And so for those people who are like asking the question that I asked when I first started learning about all this, well, how can you buy it private party if it's not on the roster? How did the people that you are buying it from get it if it wasn't on the roster? And the answer to that is twofold typically. The first of which is that law enforcement officers are exempt. And so if a law enforcement officer buys a gun and then later on decides that they no longer want it, financial circumstances have changed, they want to sell it, or whatever the case may be, they may sell that gun private party to an individual. So a lot of the off-roster guns that I've purchased from law enforcement officers. The other thing that we see a lot is if you have bought firearms in another state, like say you're in Washington where they don't have a handgun roster, and so you buy all these, you have a huge gun collection. It would be an undue burden if you decided you wanted to move to California and you couldn't bring all your guns. They made you get rid of them, give them away, sell them, or whatever, right? So you get an exemption. As long as you report them when you bring them over, you get an exemption. Later on, if you decide to sell them, then you can do so. And I could buy your guns as a resident of California and you being a resident of California who lawfully possesses the firearms. A good example is I just bought an FNX 45 tactical from a person who was in the military who was stationed on the East Coast, moved to California, and now didn't decide it. He had never even fired the gun, bought it because he liked it, never, it's still in the box, never fired a shot. And I purchased it from him, even though that gun is not on the California handgun roster. So I say all that to say the only way that you can get a semi-automatic AR pistol in the state of California is if you buy it private party from one of the two places I just talked about.
Okay, it's a lot more cumbersome than I realized. Yeah.
Right. Oh, and I neglected to mention that you can't run an AR pistol even if it's approved in the state of California. You can't run it featureless. It has to be fixed magazine.
I think they sell what, single shot where you gotta cock it back every time. Okay.
Yeah. So the other legal way, the only way you can buy one new from an FFL store is if it's a single shot, and essentially it turns into a bolt action pistol. Although I don't know why the heck you would want a bolt action pistol.
I mean, it's the way to get your hands on it. I guess that's the only way I can think of it.
Yeah.
So you could take that and convert it to a fixed mag.
I wouldn't. Again, the law is a little gray there, but I'm not about the gray.
No, you gotta stay out of that. I completely understand.
A little gray there. I'm not about the gray. I'm not going to do anything that is going to A, land me in jail, or B, potentially put me in a position where I can't exercise my Second Amendment right. So, yeah,
you don't want to be put in a situation where you have to explain yourself. So
right.
I do understand that. So I guess another I guess talk about handguns. I guess what do you recommend for beginners? What are your first handguns? What do you recommend?
So remember I told you I bought the worst possible gun you could possibly buy. I bought that Chrome Davis Industries 380s. Yeah, if I knew then what I knew now, and what I would tell people if they're buying their first firearm, they should buy a compact handgun, something that is small enough to conceal carry, something that is large enough for home defense. I think the Glock 19, I did an episode, if I could only have one gun, what would it be? I chose the Glock 19 because I felt like it's the right size. It has the ability to conceal. It has the ability to be a duty or a combat gun or a home defense gun. It's got unparalleled third party support, market support, and parts and everything are easily available. And it's 9mm, one of the most popular calibers that you can possibly buy. So I think the Glock 19 is a great buy. I think the M&P 2.0 compact is a great gun as well. There's a lot of good compact guns out there, but for the price and the money, I think you buy a compact gun that gives you good capacity and is very versatile. That would be my recommendation.
Very good. Yo, Glock's a fantastic choice. I guess, would you do like customization to like the grips and like the barrels? Are you into that, or do you think just leaving it stock is the best?
I think it depends. Oh, man, you are hitting. I feel like you should be watching my channel more. I'm doing episodes on these things, right? So I did an episode on, are Gucci guns ruining, gun culture, essentially. And the moral of the story was, I do believe in. I have a episode on how to Gucci your Glock, right? But I do believe when I try to make enhancements to my gun, I don't try to make enhancements in lieu of performance. The Glock trigger, it's very reliable, but I don't think anybody's gonna claim that it's the best trigger out there on the market. And so if you put in a better trigger, yes, aesthetically, maybe it's more pleasing than the factory trigger, but it also will provide better performance. If you're putting better sights, Glock sights suck, right? So if you put better sights on your gun, that's it. Maybe they look better, maybe they enhance the performance. If you're redoing the grip, if it's making it easier for you to grip the gun, then I think a lot of enhancements that are aesthetic can also improve performance. And if you're doing it for those reasons, then I think that's smart. I think that where a lot of people go wrong is they throw cheap junk on a gun. It ruins the reliability of the gun. And I'll say this, and this was kind of my moral to the story. I even think that's okay. I think the question you have to ask yourself is, what is this gun for, right? If this is my gun, this is my home defense gun, my gotta save my wife and my kids gun, then I want that gun to be as reliable as possible. If I just want a Gucci gun that's all tricked out and I'm never gonna put any ammo in it and it's just gonna be a display or it's gonna sit in my safe so I can show friends, everyone, then do what you want to with your gun, right? It doesn't matter. And so I'm not with the crowd that is all down on people. Oh, you're ruining the gun. You shouldn't be doing. I'm not with that crowd. It depends on what the purpose of the gun is.
No, absolutely. That's a really good answer. I like that. So I guess speaking, additions to firearms, I guess weapon lights. What do you recommend? Like, what have you used, and what do you recommend? Like, I know Olight's kind of a tricky. I don't know. It's kind of a, people hate it, people love it. It's kind of a interesting topic. It's like, what are your thoughts on Olight and I guess other weapon lights?
Well, if we're talking about on pistols, I think that's a good conversation. So obviously the behemoths are Olight, Streamlight, and Surefire, right? Those are the ones that people talk about the most. I did an episode recently comparing the three, and Olights are very good. Reliable, good lumen count, good candela. Streamlights are also really good. Surefires are good, but here's my issue with Surefire is that, and I own all three. So I've got a Surefire on my SIG P320 X5 Legion. I've got OLights on various guns, and I've got Streamlights on various guns. My issue, I don't see, other than the fact that it has the name and it's been around, I don't see the benefit and the cost difference between Surefire and the other two. And so I'm more of a Streamlight guy. I'm more of an OLight guy. I think it just depends on the firearm. But for pistols, at least, I'm not a big advocate of paying. If money is not a factor for you, then yeah, get whatever you want to get. But I don't see for an extra $200 is the Surefire. What is it, the X3000 A or B or whatever? Is that $250 better than the top of the line OLight and the top of the line Streamlight? I don't think so. So that's kind of my thoughts on it, at least.
No, that to me makes sense. I mean, it's I can't say I have much experience in this part of the, I guess, in this world of lights, but it's just, I think it's just an interesting question. So I guess, like red dot sights, what is your opinion on that?
Should you run them? Yes. Which one is the best? I think it depends on your money. I mean, I've got them all. I really, what part of my buying pattern is I want to try as much stuff as I possibly can because I want to be able to relay information to people on my channel, right? So I've got Holosun. I've got a lot of Holosun optics. I've got who am I missing? Holosun, Vortex. I got Vortex. I got EOTex. You name them, I probably got them on something. And so, I mean, they're all good. We're at the evolution now where if you're paying $200 or more for an optic, it's probably going to be a good optic. I just say beware of the $30 budget optics and $50 optics because those things have a tendency to break. They have a tendency to not have good battery life, and they have a tendency to lose zero easily, kind of, when you probably need it the most. So I just caution people about budget optics. But I get it though, because I started with budget optics. I mean, you go out and guns have not been a part of your world, and you go when you pay $500, $600, $700 for a gun, and which to most people is like, that's a lot of money, right? And then what, you're going to go out, you're going to buy a $300, $400 optic on top of the gun? So my first optics were like cheap Amazon $30, $50, $60 optics. But then I learned, in a lot of instances, you get what you pay for. At the upper end of the market, though, I don't think that's as true. In the example that we talked about with Streamlight and OLight, their top of the line is probably about $200 cheaper than Surefire, and I don't think Surefire is any better, or certainly not significantly better. I think the same thing about optics. I think you buy a $200, $300 Holosun, man, that thing's gonna run. And you want to spend $600, $700 on an EOTech? I don't, to each his own. I have one because I want to be able to see if I can discern the difference, if it really makes a difference.
It makes sense. So I guess how much time do you have left? Or I don't want to take up too much of your time. All right, because I have a couple more questions, then I'll let you go. So I guess like with concealed carry, what has your experience been in like in LA? I know that's kind of another unicorn type of thing. What has your experience been with that?
That's a very timely question. So two things. I have a concealed carry permit that is in the state of Arizona, and that allows me to carry, and I want to say something like 40 states throughout the country. So whenever I go, ironically, whenever I go to Arizona or Nevada, I can conceal carry all day, but I can't conceal carry here in the state of California. I'm in the process now of applying, midway through applying for my concealed carry permit in the city of LA and the county of LA. For those people who are watching who have heard about California's issues with concealed carry, I would say it's somewhat overstated. Every city, every county has its own concealed carry laws. There are certain parts of California where it's incredibly easy to get a concealed carry permit. You fill out the paperwork. It's essentially a shall issue. As long as if you can essentially buy a gun, then technically you can get approved for concealed carry. Traditionally, that has not been the case in LA City or LA County. These two are notorious for not approving concealed carry permit absent you having an immediate threat. Somebody's threatening your life, in which case, it takes a good 6-8 months to get a concealed carry permit. If your life is being threatened, I don't know what's good is going to do you to have one 8 months from then. But unless you're law enforcement, unless your job requires you to carry for some reason, or unless you deal with very expensive items, like if you're a jeweler who has to carry around diamonds and things like that, then you could get a concealed carry permit. But other than that, the answer was no. Recent times, we've got a new LA County sheriff who has realized that, hey, man, I don't have enough police to protect everybody. We can't be there in all places at all times, and we should give people the opportunity to protect themselves, especially given in light of what's been going on since COVID happened and everything, right? So LA County is loosening up. If you have, I won't say it's a slam dunk, but I'd say if you have a reasonably good reason to want a firearm, it seems as if you can get one. So I'll let you know. Have me back once I get mine. I'll let you know how that went.
No, absolutely. I'll make sure I do. So one question I think everybody was interested in, I guess, is like AR-10-308. Have you built one of those?
No. So I just purchased a Ruger Precision rifle, 24-inch barrel, chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor. But it's a bolt action rifle, more of a sniper rifle than a semi-automatic. One of the guns that's on kind of, so I haven't done an AR build there. Maybe I'll get around to that. One of my fantasy guns that I haven't bought yet is a Scar 20. So chambered in 308. So that'll be something probably we get down the line.
Okay, that makes sense. I know that's kind of an oddball question, but when I posted on the California Reddit, and that's what they wanted to know, so give the people what they want. So I guess one firearm that caught my eye on your channel was like the AK-9. What has your experience been with that? I can't find many YouTube videos on that. What has your experience been with it?
I love it. It's one of my most popular videos to date. So it's the Kalashnikov Cali 9, KR9 in other states, but it's essentially a AK platform 9mm. And man, you talk about a fun gun. And I've tricked it out a little bit. I took off the kind of old traditional AK housing, and I put more tactical housing on it so I can mount an optic to it, mount a light to it. But man, I love that gun. And it gets a lot. Every time I go out, take it out to the range, people are like, what's that? I haven't seen that before. And yeah, no, it gets a lot of attention. It's a fun gun to shoot. And yeah, if your listeners want to know more about it, go to my channel. I've done a couple videos on it. One was the original video where I reviewed it, and the second one I made some additional modifications to it. But yeah, it's a great gun, and I think it's arguably the most underrated pistol caliber carbine that's out there. Yeah, that's
I believe this is the that's the video right here.
Yeah, that's my girl.
Yeah. No, it's I surprisingly cannot find that many YouTube videos on that. It's very limited. I don't know why.
I think that's one of the reasons why my video is so popular, because there's not a lot of other people out there who are doing videos on it.
Okay, makes sense. So I guess a couple more questions and I'll let you go. So I guess the 8K platform, how familiar are you with that?
Yeah, so I've got the one we just talked about, and I've also got a full AK. And I did a video on this one because I called my AK possibly the sexiest AK in the world, primarily because I did the same thing on this one that I did on my Kalashnikov, only on steroids. You know, I got rid of the old traditional housing and replaced it with technical housing. I Cerakoted it. I Cerakoted everything: the muzzle brake, the front rail, the magazine. I mean, I did the works on it, and I really enjoy the platform. It's a heavier shooting gun, obviously, from a ballistic perspective than an AK. Because an AK, an AR, you're shooting a 223 5.56 round, and an AK is obviously a 7.62 by 3.9. But so it's a harder hitting round, a heavier round, and it has a little bit more kick to it. But it's a very reliable gun, arguably more reliable than the AR-15 because it has very simplistic internals. Those things are just built to last, built to run. So I enjoy AK too. I did another video, AK versus AR, where I kind of talked about the benefits of both and the shortcomings of both. But I like both platforms. One of the things that I said in the video was that more is better. I don't want to get into the argument about which one is better than the other. Can I have both? If I can have both, I want both. I want to experience all of it. You know, that's like Ford versus Chevy or whatever, right? If you can experience both, then experience both.
It's the way to do it. It's the way to do it. So I guess two more questions. I guess like how familiar are like with the legal challenges in the current Supreme Court cases in California? Like obviously you guys had your magazines, Freedom Mags. Did you partake in that?
I did. So fortunately, I have to credit friends of mine because at the time I wasn't even into guns. But when it all went down, they were like, "Hey, you better buy whatever you can buy, any gun you think you might want to get someday." So they advised me on stuff to get. So that was great. But obviously since then that's gone away. So a lot of my weapons that I bought now I'm capacity limited. You know, I was very in tune to all the cases. I know we've got so much stuff. We've got stuff going on at the state level in the California Supreme Court, and then obviously there's stuff going on at the federal level. Originally, I was like waiting with bated breath, but these things take so long, you know, to come to any kind of resolution one way or the other. I kind of had to stop myself because I found myself searching every day for some kind of update, and there is none. We just got to wait it out. But obviously, I think the capacity limits are stupid. They don't do anything. 10 rounds. I did a video. 10 rounds is not enough. If you're in a home defense situation, in today's times, most home invasions take place with 3 to 4 people who are going to likely be armed, who don't care about the law, so they're not going to have limited capacity magazines, and you're going to be trying to fight 3 or 4 people off with 10 rounds. That just doesn't make sense to me. We already kind of talked about the assault weapon ban stuff. I think that's just silly. We don't have an assault weapon ban. We don't have an assault weapon problem in our country. It makes up such a small percentage of gun deaths in our country. To me, it's just a political ploy so that, you know, people who are against Second Amendment rights have something to rail on. But it's not real. So I'm aware of all the cases that are pending. Obviously, there's a lot of concealed carry cases that are pending as well. So look, I'm hoping they go our way. I'm glad that the Supreme Court is taking up a couple of these cases. Obviously, that'll affect all the state law as well. I think the court is kind of configured to be advantageous for us. And so hopefully they come out on the right side of that.
All right, I guess we'll answer one more question, and I'll have to go ahead and bounce. I guess what are you interested in buying in the future?
Yeah, so like I said, I've been busy. You know, my gun list had about like 45, 46 guns on it a year ago, and now it's down to about 6. I've removed some of those, but yeah, most of them are pistols that are hard to come by. So I mentioned the SCAR 20 and 308. I want to get that. That is something that you can get in California, provided it's in a featureless setup. It's just very expensive. I want to get a 2011 Staccato DPO is one of the ones on my list. The Beretta 92X Performance, the Walther 92X Performance Center. That's one of the guns on my list. The SIG MPX-K, that's one of the things on my list. So I got a few. They're all crazy expensive though, and so I'm not sure how soon I'll be able to get them. They're expensive guns in general, and then in California, because they're off roster, that's one of the things we didn't talk about. When you buy these off roster guns, they're typically at anywhere between 150 to 200% of the retail price.
Yeah, I completely understand that. So I guess we'll go ahead and end it there. I guess final thoughts. Where can we find you?
Sure. Check me out at on YouTube at 2A-N-LA. Like I said, we've got over 75 episodes now and growing. We're going to definitely hit the 100 episode mark before the end of the year. So I invite everybody to come check out the channel. We just launched our merchandise store. As you can see, I've got my 2A-N-LA cap and sweatshirt. So we have merchandise too for people who want to support the channel and also stylishly exhibit their Second Amendment preference.
All right, that looks good. I appreciate your time. I really, really do appreciate you spending your time with me and talking about your channel and everything. So
no, I'm happy to be here, and I'm sorry it kind of took us a while to get this all set up, but I enjoyed it.
I do too. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, any thoughts, we're definitely going to have Alan on back again. So look forward to it. Was great talking with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Thanks, guys.